I shared on a previous real-side experience an encounter with a giant spider being. It was a brief scene, a situation where a number of humans had been captured, contained, and strung up in webbings in a vast cave by this spider creature. This wasn't an ordinary spider, in that it wasn't a body form that was directly connected with and animated by the real awareness. The real awareness that is through all created body forms. For the insect, animal, and indeed spider forms are those where, although the consciousness is established, as a consciousness must be present to effect a certain body form and experience, it is just really an engine room that generates the vehicles and the simulation, and then the real awareness is placed within the consciousness, and like putting on a virtual reality headset, has a view into the simulation thus generated from the consciousness. For just as with any virtual reality headset, it contains the files, the data that is the game, which would be the equivalent of the consciousness. The consciousness also effects a body vehicle, which has the mechanics to decode these files, this data, into a simulation. Without the body vehicles, the consciousness, the game, couldn't be decoded. It would be present on our computer, but the screen would be effectively blank, and only as we have the body vehicles and their decoding of the consciousness idea files available is this like switching the screen on, and we can see the simulation effected from the ideas the consciousness comprises of. With the real awareness maintaining its direct connection with its created vehicle, it maintains the being isness nowness of the true reality it is a part of, though has yet to recognize. And the programs running that affect the body types and simulation will almost be on automatic. The real awareness will just be perpetually maintaining its nowness everything position, just viewing through its creation the simulation effected from the consciousness, like the computer operator animating the avatar character they have in any game. As the real awareness is also part of this isness everything, it will always operate in ways that make sense with life, with awareness. All awareness that is this isness everything. And so a body form directly animated by the real awareness will do nothing other than make sense with life, and will always operate in ways that are overall awareness beneficial. Animals won't, for example, destroy the natural environment that supports them. They operate in harmony with the environment, which, just as everything natural must be, is animated with the same overall isness awareness. And for awareness to exact harm or destruction through its created body vehicle to the environment, which also encases this isness awareness, would make no sense. But there comes the moment when a certain body type is assumed, where the utilizing of the mechanics of the vehicles becomes so, the harnessing of free will. Up until now, the body types were running on automatic with their consciousness programs, with the real awareness just being its everything isness reality. But anything other than this everything state, if something is created, this then can't be experienced in the position of everything isness. It can only be experienced in isolation from the whole. And although the consciousness has certain encapsulated ideas that effect a certain simulation and body types, as I said, it is an isolated experience from the whole isness everything, but viewed from a position of this real awareness everything position. This detached indifference to the creation is maintained. The real awareness is aside from it, viewing it, but not absorbed into it. But with free will, now not only is the consciousness program running that dictates body type and simulation, but the being creates its own ideas as it considers, contemplates, as it uses more the literal parts of the created self. And now, with every created, free will generated idea, so this is a removing from the state of real awareness everything position. For any idea created is an encapsulation, a part isolated from the whole, a removing from this real awareness, nowness everything. And then, as the ideas being free will generated cease, so with the mechanics of the vehicles halted, a return to this nowness everything real awareness position is so. And this back and forth affords overall the comparison, as what is established is a second self, a personal self through free will idea activation, a personal self that comes to the fore as ideas are created and agreed to, and then a personal self placed aside when idea creating ceases, and a return to the real awareness everything isness position. This back and forth allows then a comparison as to the difference between the personal self and creation, the parts, the encapsulated pieces, and this isness everything position that the real awareness is a part of, and gradually recognition of this isness true reality becomes so, which is the purpose of creation for real awareness units, to recognize the ears it is a part of. And so, as the animal, insect and bird body types maintain this real awareness standing, as they operate in ways then that make sense with all life, so it is that when free will is established, generally the personal selves will operate in all manner of decided ways that make varying degrees of sense with life, and the more the personal self is utilized, the more the being gets lost in the personal self, disconnecting from the real awareness that it actually is, and blunders and flounders through creation, making less and less sense with life as it progresses through lifetimes. Attitudes are established, distortions, the want to control, to subjugate, various thrill-seeking lines of experience are pursued, many times at the expense of others, although agreements all round are required for any collectively shared experience, regardless of what transpires between individuals, and emerging from this disconnect with the real awareness will be all manner of distorted consciousnesses of attitudes, ill-intended abrasive inclinations, and destructive and controlling intents. And even though generally the spider body form is one which is directly animated by the real awareness prior to the utilizing of free will and the establishing of the personal self, spider body types are also those which can be found with beings where free will and the personal self has been established, such as in the case with the giant spider that had captured all the humans for whatever ill-intended purpose it had for doing so, through agreements which had allowed this to be so. However, these agreements between the human captives and the spider were secured, as nothing can befall anyone experience-wise unless they agree, unless they decide it is so. Interestingly, on a recent real side experience, a week or so after this encounter with the giant human capturing spider, I would encounter another spider being also, again the body type of a spider, but where the personal self had been established, and it would transpire that it was the same spider, but where this spider being in the previous experience had been inclined toward nonsensical actions of control and domination, although the full reasons for why it held the humans captive was never made apparent, as what fate befell the humans was never revealed, the spider being now had an altogether different intent and agenda. As it transpired, the spider being then featuring in both experiences was a female, and perhaps it had no intentions in regards to the captured humans other than just that, just exercising its ability to do so, almost as a display of its might, for I had no impressions that anything happened with the humans other than being perpetually trapped by the spider until it decided to release them, if it indeed ever did. Beings do pass the time in various ways, and this seemed to be then something this spider indulged in, a little human capturing just for the fun of it, and on that occasion I had simply been observing, not involved or engaging with the simulated situation or the participants, the spider or humans, in any way, but perhaps there was a contact made with the spider that my personal self wasn't shown, for now it was as though the spider being had abandoned its nonsensical, human-capturing preoccupations. Still the same cave it resided in, but devoid of any captured, strung-up with webbing beings, human or otherwise. My impressions were that I had perhaps engaged the spider being, very likely presented the real references of the ears, and had her perhaps see how nonsensical its previous actions were, that I had impressioned on her how there were far more productive and awareness-bolstering activities that could be as alternatives. For anything that is restricting, that is controlling, are just actions and ideas that keep all involved circulating and limited to a creation, which really every idea will do, unless it references the ears. So on the other side of the coin, anything that promotes the ears, the guides, that provides references as to how to extricate from the necessity of creation, is life-supporting, as life is all about itself, all about awareness and the recognizing ever more so of this isness true reality. This is the overall real purpose. It's all about awareness and the recognizing of the ears. And so, as we do that which is life-supporting and awareness-benefiting, as we promote the true reality, as everything equals itself, so we are mutually supported by the ears in our own awareness process, and we earn our way, we earn our awareness. For you can't be complete with the ears, unless you are absolute in the standing and supporting of it. Anything less than absolute must mean something that isn't is supporting, which must be creational ideas that are then limiting and restricting. And so it's a gradual progression from being completely personal self-immersed and wallowing in idea creations of a restricting, controlling nature, to standing complete with the ears in absolute support of it, which is a gradual progression of releasing everything cause and effect creationally limiting that doesn't make sense with life. So really, earning your way is just deciding to continuously support more so the isness that we all actually are a part of, our real awareness, true being state, that taken to its conclusion as we release every idea of a creation and our attachments and agreements, we stand fully in our real awareness true states, as though we had gone full circle, as the animal forms we once had this real awareness position maintained, only now we have the opportunity to utilize the idea creations of the personal self to recognize the ears, and can effectively step out of creation if we decide to be fully unshackled from all the ideas of it. So this spider being had perhaps come to this determination. She wanted to be more than just another being floundering in creation and passing the time in various nonsensical, life-restricting ways. She would also be communicating with me, and my real awareness impressions did reveal the spider as a female. But in addition, would the communication be so telepathically, and the voice of the spider sounded very female indeed. For many body types and species have developed the means of communication this way, where verbal exchanges are then not necessary. For anything is possible in creation, in regards to individuals and species. They simply have to decide it, agree with it, and it becomes so. The consciousness has the decided ideas installed, and you can have then a species develop along lines where telepathy is their preferred means of communication. I would not be alone here either, in this cave with the spider, but in the company of 5 others. On previous real side experiences, I have revealed how, due to the deteriorating physical level Earth situation, the escalating pollution, etc., that certain options have been made available for those on their awareness processes. For intent always rolls out the simulation to the actualization of what the intent is, and if intent is placed with the ears, if the personal intent aligns with the real intent, which is the real awareness, which is the recognizing of the ears, then everything plays out simulated wise to that end, if the real intent is maintained. And so everything required to this real intent actualizing will be so, and it seems that then this includes options and opportunities that allow the continuation of this awareness process while in creation, that counteract and mitigate the less than favourable conditions we must operate in as we proceed. Everything from possible relocations by aliens to less tumultuous positions in creation, if situations become unworkable on Earth, to the assumption of more robust and pollution-resilient body types that would replace the more vulnerable and fragile human body forms. And I have shared a number of these real side experiences where these options have been revealed. For additionally, certain beings have stepped forward with various offers also, some ill-intended, however, and their options based on deception and control, some well-meaning, but their options not entirely favourable, and some that are with the guides, and their offers are indeed viable. It rather depends on how aware the individual is in regards to their offer, for the more aware they are, the more they are connecting with and recognizing the real awareness that they are, and the more their offers and options must make sense, awareness, and life-wise. For a personal self-immersed individual may be well intended, but without the input and knowing as afforded by the real awareness, they will always operate in ways that they think makes sense with life, and how they think will be according to their consciousness construction, and not always what life is now, and what makes sense with life in each and every moment. And always you can determine intent with the real awareness impressions, as behind whatever is presented on the surface are all the ideas that make up the consciousness, including the intent. And as the real awareness is part of all awareness, that is through then all individualized personal created selves, our real awareness can determine everything that all consciousness comprises of, and we are generally provided with the intent of all we encounter by the real awareness, as very often behind the smiles and marketed fronts there are other agendas that we can inadvertently agree with and be tap-lined accordingly with restricting, controlling ideas. So a real awareness assessment of all those we encounter on the real side is a standard generally. Impressions provided if we stand in the nowness of the real awareness, whereas we go through our real side experiences, these impressions, these intent readings can be afforded. For if we stand in the personal self, we are disconnected from the real awareness, and so shut off from these everything consciousness idea-wise impressions the real awareness can provide. And so it was that the impressions provided assured me of this spider being's well-placed intent, that she had decided to provide an option to step up and assist in this particular way, to help the aware new friends, which this group I was with happened to be, though their identities were not made apparent. It seemed she had the ability to make alterations to our body vehicles that would be beneficial in some way in the moments to come, as things roll out as they do on the earth. And of course, if you change the body vehicle in any way, you are changing that which affects it. You are making alterations to the consciousness. And I have found that many beings have this ability to alter the consciousness that then will effect changes in the body form. It's just that, as I said, you need be cautious as to the intent of the individual, as some experiences have involved detrimental changes that then had to be readjusted. So this spider being had this capability, was sincere, and we would agree for her assistance therefore. As she lumbered close, as she stood in close proximity, she utilized this consciousness-altering ability. No physical contact necessary, as we suddenly were cocooned in webbing, the group and I bunched together, and it was as though our body types began to fragment, to split apart, as though all our atoms were disassociating from each other, as though a complete atomic dismantling of our body forms, to the extent that all our atoms were in flux, mixing and bouncing off each other, that no longer could you distinguish any one of the group from the other. And then it was as though I slipped unconscious, as everything went black. But as I said, if you dismantle the body form that is essential for decoding the ideas of the consciousness into a simulation, it's like turning off the computer, and the simulation, the game you were viewing through the decoding body vehicles, is no longer available. And then the cave became apparent again. The group and I were liberated from the cocoon of webbing, and our body forms were as they had been before, reconstituted. The spider being looked very pleased with herself, and although appearance-wise the group and I seemed unchanged, we knew there was something different, some alteration in the consciousness. Interestingly, one of the group was laying to one side, and although had been part of this transformation, now lay on the ground unmoving. The spider would proclaim how she had read the individual and determined he was insincere, an impostor, a dark force infiltrator, so she had dispatched him. And then we would bid the female spider farewell, thanking her for her assistance in our consciousness to physical body effecting alterations. We were joined now by another individual, who my impressions revealed was a real guide. The real awareness, as a part of this isness reality, as all beings will be, can read also if the beings encountered have the recognition of the is, as this will be a unique signature that only the real awareness can determine, as the personal self only deals with the simulation and the visual body forms. The personal self can't determine is recognitional standing, as it is only designed for the simulation it effects. And real guides will have this isness recognized signature that the real awareness can then determine, and we are assured then as to the real guides from the fakes, as unlike the personal self, the real awareness is a part of the isness that the real guides are also, and can read then which real awareness being recognizes the is or not. We were led now out into what seemed to be a future view of situations to potentially transpire on the earth, for as the vaccines continue to be administered, as the various electromagnetic technologies continue to bombard the earth, so massive distortions in the body types are inevitable. Everything from humans being transformed into zombie-like creatures to mutations, etc. I have seen many potentialities that can become so, and indeed ultimately robotization and technological control through the robot vehicles, which is the Dark Force controller's end goal. In this case, as the guide walked our group through what appeared to be deserted streets, like scenes after an apocalypse, such was the disarray and unkept nature of the scenes, featuring also was what appeared to be the surviving humans, and they had indeed been mutated in various ways, disfigured, etc., but also were as though mindless zombies. For it has been revealed on the real side through various experiences that prior to a complete robotization, the humans have a kind of zombie phase, as though the complete control of their body vehicles and mechanics through technology takes a while to stabilize, and before that they seem bewildered, absent, but prone to violent attacks and savagery, just like zombies as portrayed in the movies. And should we have been walking among them in the body forms we had previously, before our spider alteration, we would automatically have been attacked by these zombie humans. For as we passed them, they would study us briefly, then dismiss us. So it was as though the spider being had made alterations in our consciousness that had effected as a change in our body forms, not appearance-wise, but something, maybe internally, that was in some way detectable by the zombies. For these zombies would not attack their own, but attack anyone who wasn't zombified, as though recognizing the difference and motivated to kill anyone not a zombie. And so we hadn't been zombified, but had a consciousness alteration into the body form that registered to the zombies as though we had, and so this afforded us protection. For as agreements in the consciousness stand, the human race will be by and large zombified through the vaccines, the 5G, etc. This phase before robotization will be so, and the zombies seemingly are motivated to kill all those that have evaded this zombification, and very likely any new friends on Earth when this takes place will be among those who do not become as zombies, and therefore viable attack targets. And so perhaps for my group and I, and any other agreeable new friends, this alteration may have taken place now, and although our outward forms are unchanged, it had afforded as a kind of identifiable marker that will have the zombies thinking we are their kind. And so when and if this human zombification takes place, in theory, those who underwent this alteration will have a greater survivability, assuming we indeed remain on Earth when the human experience moves to this zombie apocalypse phase. As I said, options made available that better facilitate our continued process of awareness, based on the intent placement with the ears from rather an unlikely source, a giant female spider being that decided to step up and assist in this way, and backed by the guides seemingly, as the guide would accompany us and walk us around the streets of the earth as they may become desolate, abandoned, and zombie-infested.
Terrific, Kevin. Yes, you and Val can share these on The Great Witness. As to what's happening, and more so with the groups, I'm letting people know also, and people I talk to, because it's all here, and it's just going to keep getting worse. And again, people have a La La Land idea in their head. It's never going to happen. Nothing is ever resolved in creation, and especially the earth right now. So we're doing what we can, let people know. That's all we can do. But overall, it's doing what it's doing. Terrific, Kevin. Thank you for sharing.